Welcome back to the channel. Let's explore together. Today we're going to check out why Dutch bikes are better and why you should want one. I like bikes, but not really enough to have a huge stake in this little claim or fight, but I'm very curious to see why the people of the Netherlands believe that their bikes are superior, so let's find out. Not just bikes. Okay.
This is our Dutch bicycle. It's an oma fiets, literally grandma bicycle. There is really nothing special about it, at least here in the Netherlands. But in Canada, the US, or many other countries, this bike would be very unique indeed, and bicycles like this one really surprised me the first time I visited the Netherlands. There's a good reason for this uniqueness. In the Netherlands, bicycles are seen as a tool for everyday transportation, a way to get from point A to point B quickly and efficiently. In most other countries, bicycles are used primarily for sport and exercise. This one difference explains nearly everything special about a bike like this.
That looks like a beach bike. I'm going to be curious to hear all of the definition, but I grew up in Southern California, and when you go into beach towns, bikes are a primary mode of transportation, and beach bikes look like that. They don't have brakes on the handlebars. The brakes are from doing reverse on the pedals. They're that kind of shape with lower bars and everything's more comfortable. I think sometimes they call them banana seats or whatever, but they're beach cruisers. Beach cruisers are made to just chill. You could sit in them for hours. That's what that looks like to me. I'm going to be curious to see if there's any difference, but that bike that they just showed wasn't unusual. I think it would be unusual where I live now in the Midwest. And actually my wife and I tracked down a version of those when we wanted to start doing more leisurely bike riding, and the ones we got were not that good. We ended up getting rid of them. They were not up to par with the beach bikes you could find at a local store on the beaches of California. So let's find out though. Let's see if there's any significant differences between the beach bikes I'm accustomed to and these, or if just people in the Dutch people are just using beach bikes basically.
Now, it's not like this is the only kind of bicycle you'll see in the Netherlands, of course. There are many others, including e-bikes, cargo bikes, hand cycles, and you'll definitely see road bikes used for sport too, especially on weekends. But for everyday urban transportation, this style of bicycle is by far the most common. So what makes this bicycle so different from what you might be used to? Well, the primary difference is that this is an upright bicycle. It's built to ride in an upright sitting position. This is an inefficient position that will not transmit maximum power into the crank during a pedal stroke, plus it's totally not aero. But who cares? What the upright position does provide is comfort. The handlebars on this bicycle are high up and swept back, making it extremely comfortable to ride. On this kind of bicycle, you almost pull up and back on the handlebars rather than putting any weight on them. This is just a more comfortable way to sit on a bicycle, and the design is very similar to the original safety bicycle developed in the UK in the late 19th century.
Yeah, this is essentially a beach bike.
Also makes it easier to see what's going on around you, which can be safer when cycling in busy urban environments with lots of other people around. Riding this way lets you wear any type of clothing you'd like because it's no different than sitting in a chair. And
usually a lot of these have covered chains, so if you're wearing any baggy clothing, it won't get caught in the chain either. At least the beach bikes do, and I believe what I saw of these also have those.
Which is why you see most people in the Netherlands dressed for the destination and not the ride. This bicycle has a step-through frame, meaning that you can get on and off it very easily without having to swing your leg around like you do on a bike like this.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to be going like, ugh, because then you can't wear like a dress or a skirt on the bicycle if there's a big old bar down there. Yeah, these are definitely beach bikes, but it's interesting that the pretty much the main bike of the Netherlands are what we usually only have in coastal areas in the US. Because I don't see these bikes in the mainland, in like the mainland US. I don't really see these. But I saw them a lot back in the beach.
With a crossbar. These frames are fine and you'll definitely see them here, but I find them particularly annoying if you have a kid seat because if you swing your leg up to get on, you kick your kid in the head.
Wasted. Nice meme.
And I don't understand why we still call these men's bikes when it's the only kind you can hit your nuts on. Because step-through frames are more comfortable to use, they're increasingly popular for both men and women. This is another thing that contributes to people wearing normal clothes when cycling, and why you'll even see women wearing dresses and skirts.
Yeah, like I said. Beach
Speaking
bike.
of skirts, this thing is called a skirt guard or
There you
coat
go.
guard, and it's quite common on Dutch bicycles.
Yeah, I noticed that on the wheel too. You get that on the chain and on the wheel. A lot of times those are stylized a little more. I remember seeing some of those and they'd have like a wave on it because, you know, beach bikes, waves and stuff. But yeah, those are pretty standard on most of the good ones.
It prevents long articles of clothing from getting stuck in the spokes as you ride. It also helps prevent a child sitting on the back from getting their foot stuck. Another thing to protect your clothing is the chain guard,
Yep.
a plastic or metal cover over
Noticed
the
that
bicycle
earlier.
chain. It also helps to protect the chain from the elements, making it last longer. This thing here is called a frame lock, and almost every bicycle in the Netherlands has one. These are incredibly convenient for so many reasons, but I've almost never seen them outside of the Netherlands,
Now,
Denmark, and
yeah,
Japan.
that's new. I'm guessing that's your bike lock. You lock the bike without having to rope it to a bike conveyor. Of course, someone could just pick up the bike at that point, but it's still neat. It looks like it's locking the tire into place so you can't ride it. I think probably one of the reasons it hasn't caught on in the US is because someone would just pick up the bike and disable that later. That's why we usually chain our bikes to a foundation that can't be picked up.
They are an easy way to lock the back wheel of your bicycle for quick stops, which makes it really, really easy to pop into a shop when riding somewhere.
Yep.
frame-
And they still have the bike racks where you could chain up the bike there. But yeah, I could see why that's a cool technology, but I can also see why it hasn't like super caught on. It would deter someone, you know, it would deter a lot of people from trying to steal the bike. But in the US, there's so many trucks and everything that someone could just pick up, throw in the truck and go before anyone saw it.
Frame lock also keeps your key inside as you ride. You can actually buy frame locks that don't do this, but I really like the key retaining feature.
That's cool.
This is a small detail, but it ensures that your bike keys are always with you.
Yep.
That being said, I have been known to accidentally hit the key with my leg and bend it like this.
Ooh, that's no
Oops.
good.
Also, while there's a lot of space for the locking mechanism in the wheel, I seem to hit the spoke far more often than you'd think. I should have gone into neutrino research.
Whoops.
When this lock is engaged, you can't ride the bicycle, but you can, of course, just pick it up and walk away with it.
Yep.
So if you want to ensure that your bike is still there when you return, it's best to bring a chain lock with you as well, and most people do.
See, me and this guy
If
are on
you
the
see
same
bikes
page.
locked only like this, it's probably because the owner considers their bike too crappy to steal. A slight variation on this is a frame lock with a chain lock integrated, giving you 2 locks with 1 key.
That's cool. That's convenient. That's real
Interestingly, U-locks, by far the most common locks in North America, are not seen very often in the Netherlands.
Those are the most common
Probably
locks.
because it's difficult to get close enough to something to lock to with so many other bicycles around.
I'm surprised that U-locks are the most common. I'm not a bike riding connoisseur, especially in this part of the country, but the ones I see the most common are like just the chains with rubber coating or some sort of rubber shell around them that are malleable that you just hook and lock. I don't see a lot of those U-locks anywhere that I've lived around here, but who knows?
Another feature you'll see on almost every bicycle in the Netherlands is both front and rear fenders. This makes sense in a country where it rains all the time. Fenders are not considered an optional add-on here.
Yeah,
What's
a
also
lot of the bikes didn't have any sort of fenders in California because it never rains there.
Included is a kickstand. Almost every bike comes with one.
Nice. That's a good feature.
Over the fender, you'll usually find a rear rack, though some bikes have a rack on the front.
Yeah, usually our kickstands are like in what it just showed there, where it's like this side thing that you kick out. That's usually the kind of kickstand that the beach bikes that I'm used to had.
Ultimately, these bicycles are meant to be useful, so having panniers at the back or a box on the front allows people to carry a surprisingly large amount of stuff. No SUV required.
What's funny is some people would try to use those things to carry their surfboard, and they became just this giant hazard. It's just like, no, bro, stop it. They try it anyway.
Rear racks in the Netherlands are also built strong enough to carry another person, which you see quite regularly. But then everything on a Dutch bicycle is heavy duty. These aren't aluminium or carbon fiber frames, they're made of solid steel. These bikes are not built for speed, they're built.
Yeah, most good beach bikes are usually some form of steel. They're heavy as hell, and they're just these are beach bikes. They're beach bikes. This guy needs to visit the beaches of the U.S. and you'll see these everywhere.
To last.
At least the Southern California beaches.
In general, Dutch bicycles are built to be low maintenance. So when a bicycle has gears, they're often internal hub gears like this one. In-hub gearing is great because they almost never need maintenance. This is very different from derailleurs, which I find are constantly going out of alignment. Of course, many bicycles, including this one of ours, don't have any gears at all.
Yep. I was going to say, most of them didn't have gears. They don't go very fast. Maybe if you're going down a hill, you get into the 20-mile-an-hour range, but they're not made for speed.
You might also notice that this particular bike doesn't have any handbrakes either. A lot of bikes here do have handbrakes, but this one uses coaster brakes that you engage by cycling backwards.
Yep.
This was fascinating to me because in Canada, you will never see brakes like this except on children's bikes.
All right, so Canada bikes are different than US bikes, I think. I think he took his Canadian experience and applied it to the rest of North America. Because this type of bike, like I said, was super commonplace in the places in the US that I grew up.
They take some getting used to.
I imagine you couldn't even use a bike like this in Canada, though. The places, unless you're like talking the North Coast, the northwest coast of Canada, like Vancouver, I could see that. But most of the rest of Canada, like most areas, you would want more of like a road bike or a mountain bike just because of the climate and things like that. So I would imagine that this type of leisure bike, as we would class it on the beaches, wouldn't really have any part of Canada where I think it would make sense, except maybe Vancouver. I'd be curious if this type of bike exists in that area of Canada.
But I really prefer cycling like this, as it feels so natural to pedal forward to speed up and pedal backwards to brake. By not having any handbrakes or gears, it keeps the bike simple and maintenance-free. It also avoids any cables that might accidentally get stuck on other bicycles when parking in tight places. All of this is done to keep the bicycle in good working condition, which is important when it's your primary mode of transportation.
Yep.
The only problem we've ever had with this bicycle is the occasional flat tire.
Easy.
And speaking of tires,
fix.
did you know they use a different tire valve here? In the US and Canada, there are only ever two tire valves. Presta, found on road bikes, and Schrader, found on everything else.
Yeah, the Schrader one is the one I'm used to seeing.
Here in the Netherlands, they use a Blitz valve.
Okay.
These
what's cool about
valves have
this?
a little ball that prevents air from getting out. They're really easy to work with.
Nice.
In case you're curious, you can just use a regular Presta pump to fill these. Just pump it up to a high enough pressure and the valve will open automatically.
That's cool.
Another thing you'll sometimes see on bicycles here is a dynamo. These go in the wheel hub or on the wheel and generate enough electricity to power LED lights.
Oh, nice.
These are pretty nice as you never need to worry about recharging batteries or forgetting your lights.
That's cool.
Just another small thing that makes these bicycles simple for everyday use. And lastly, the bell on this bike makes a pleasant sound. Though
That's
you hardly
different. That's
ever
like
need
a
to use
doorbell.
bell here, so it doesn't really matter.
That was the more bike sound I'm used to.
When we
His
were
sounded
still
like
living
a
in
doorbell.
Canada, we knew about upright Dutch-style bikes and tried for years to buy one, but they were almost impossible to find.
Really?
This photo sums up the situation in Canada. A
Yeah.
selection of bicycles supposedly for commuting with nothing but sporty hybrids and road bikes.
Yep.
They don't even come with a rack, fenders, or kickstand.
It has got to be a Canadian problem because, again, my wife and I found these kind of bikes in the Midwest. They just weren't good bikes because they were cheap. But if we wanted to find these kind of bikes, we just had to pay the money for them. It's just not super practical because everything's so spread out in the Midwest, so far as like where you would go to bike. We're not like downtown or somewhere where like everything's close enough that bike riding is practical.
Maybe there are more bike shops with upright bicycles today, but when we lived in Toronto, there was only one shop that sold
Oh, you lived in Toronto. Okay. Yeah, well, I don't think there's anywhere where you could really get use out of this kind of a bike in Toronto with the weather.
them, and the next closest was over 50 kilometers away.
You got in Toronto, don't you have like that lake effect icing and snowing? That's why all the bikes are like that. You'd only be able to use the other bike a couple months out of the year. It wouldn't be practical to sell it to you. So I think we're dealing more of an issue of climate and practicality than anything else.
Here in Amsterdam, I can't swing a pair of clogs without hitting a dozen bicycle shops that sell functional, practical bicycles. Bicycles that are designed for transportation, not sport. One group in Winnipeg, Canada, got so frustrated trying to find practical urban bicycles that they started importing new and used bicycles from the Netherlands.
That's fun.
They call themselves the Plain Bicycle Project, and they're regularly receiving shipping containers full of bicycles from the Netherlands.
That's funny.
So to my Dutch viewers, when you're finished with your bike,
send it to Canada.
Donating it to needy families in Canada. It's so great to have bicycles.
You better fit those with some snow tires then.
Bicycles that aren't for sport.
I know there's weather in the Netherlands too, but it's nothing like freaking Canada. Oh god.
Bicycles whose primary function is to be there when you need it, to carry your shopping or your friend, and to be used with as little effort as possible. No special gear or costume changes required.
Look at Superman over there.
This is a point that's often overlooked because while it's obviously important to have safe streets and cycling infrastructure, it also makes a difference to have easy access to practical, low-maintenance bicycles like this one. Living in Amsterdam, I know that when I need to go somewhere, taking a bicycle will usually be the fastest and most convenient way to get there. But it's also important to know that I won't have any problems either, because of our old, clunky, rusty, beat-up, comfortable, reliable Omafeets. I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon who pay me to talk about just bikes on Not Just Bikes. If you'd like to...
All right, well, so I think what I've learned today is that in the Netherlands, the rule of the beach bike applies everywhere. So that was an interesting little look. I think I learned more about the lack of good bikes in Canada during this video than anything else. If you liked the video, drop a comment, sub to the channel, let me know what we're checking out next, and until we explore again, I'll see you later.